Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to create a little basic pathway for our enemies to move down. So starting in a blank base plate, and we're just going to add in a part. There we go. That will do as our basic course. And now all we need is a monster to walk down it. So you can use anything really. But I'm just going to go open the toolbox, and I'm probably just going to go and grab a zombie, the classic monster. And we'll select this one here. It's got the approved badge here. We can see it's made by Roblox themselves. So add this one in, the drooling zombie. Okay, but we don't actually want any of the script. We can delete that. We can delete this audio clip, this script, this billboard GUI. These configurations and modules, delete both of them. But if we look inside animations, there's this thing called arms. We do want to keep that. That's actually the walk animation, so we'll just rename this to walk. But we can delete the attack animation, but we'll keep this walk one for now. These ones, they look like animations, but these are actually mesh parts. So don't delete them, because if you delete them, you're going to end up with a rather blocky looking character. So don't do that. So now we've got this little guy here. Well, we want to move him from the start of the level here. And we're going to want to move him down to the end of the map, which is all the way over here. So what we could do is we could add in some kind of part like this. Make this like a waypoint. And then we'll name this one end. And then inside of a script, well, we could just add one straight into the zombie script. And obviously we need to get the zombie. So local zombie in this case was the script.parent. And then we need the humanoid. So zombie dot humanoid. And we could just say move to workspace dot end dot position. But if we do that, if we run it, what's going to happen? Is he's just going to head in a straight line right to the destination. That is obviously not what we want. We want him to go around the path. So how can we get him to do that? Well, there's a few ways. We could use something called pathfinding service, but then what we need to do is you'd have to put up a load of invisible walls like this. And that's going to take quite a bit of work to build all these invisible walls, right? It takes time. A kind of quick and easy way we could do is, because it's a fixed path, it's never going to change, we can actually just provide a series of waypoints ourselves. Like we provide this one at the end, well, if we just add one at each turn, then it can let him know where to go. Now, before we do that, I'm actually going to get all these path pieces and put them into a folder, okay? So I'm going to create a new folder inside workspace. We'll just name this path, and then we're going to create another one. So duplicate it, and we'll call this one waypoints. So we move the end into the waypoints folder, and move all of these parts, make sure they're anchored. And drag them into the path folder. Okay, so just keeping things a bit organized as we go. And so with our waypoint, instead of just having this one named end, what we're actually going to do is going to move it back to the start again. And this is the first turn he's got to do. And to keep track of all of these waypoints, we're actually just going to number them, okay? So as soon as it's the first one, we'll just give this a name of 1. Duplicate it, move it along, and this one will be the second. second turn, we'll just name this 2. And we're going to repeat this process. So this will be 3 until we've done every point along the map. Okay, so we've now got 12 waypoints, all spaced out every turn along the way. Obviously, it's a bit of a hacky solution, but it does mean, seeing as you're only going to have a fairly short fixed path, that you can keep track of it very nicely. We're going to select all these parts, make sure they're anchored again, disable collision. Because we don't want the zombie to be bumping into them. And while we're here, we'll maybe just make them sort of semi-transparent like so. Now what we're going to do is we're going to loop through all of these waypoints and tell our zombie here to move to each one. So select our zombie again, open up the script, and instead of doing it like this, we need to get the waypoints first of all. So local waypoint, zombie again, open up the script, and instead of doing it like this, we need to get the waypoints first of all. So local waypoints equals workspace dot waypoints. And then we're going to need a loop. So we'll use something called a for loop. So for I equals 1. Or in fact, we could say for waypoint equals 1. And then the number we want the loop to go up to, which will be the total amount of waypoints there are. So we can say waypoints get children. This will get us a table of everything inside of it. And then we just want to count how many items are inside of the table. So we just can use a hash. So for waypoint equals 1 and the total do, and then we create this for loop block, and we're going to want to move the humanoid, move the zombie's humanoid to, instead of just saying a fixed workspace.end, we want to get the waypoint points. And then what we do is inside brackets, square brackets, you designate which one you want to move it to. In this case, it is the waypoint variable. This local variable we've created. So on the first loop through, it will equal 1. And we're saying go to the waypoints folder and find waypoint number 1, which is going to be this one right here. On the second loop through, when it comes back around again, it's going to increase it by 2, increment it, and it's going to be equal to 2 then. And so then it'll go to waypoint number 2, and it'll increment up to by 1 each time. So then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 until it gets till 12, which is our final waypoint. Now we want to make sure he reaches each one before he tries to walk to the next one. So we'll say zombie.humanoid move to finished. And we'll just add in a colon wait. Ensure he waits each time. So now we've got our zombie controller script sorted. Let's run that and see if we can get him moving. We'll give it a run. And oh, we've got a problem there because I've just put the, there we go. You can see my error down in the output. I've just specified the part, whereas move to needs to specify a position. So I put dot position, and there we go, we fix it. That's I've just specified the part, whereas move to needs to specify a position. So I put dot position, and there we go. Yeah, we fix it. That's why I should always have the output open while you're scripting. So try that again. And there we go. He moves to the first waypoint and then straight on to the second waypoint, and he'll keep going until he reaches the very end. And there he goes, and he finishes the loop. So now we've got our zombie moving along the course, but we've still got a lot to do next. So join me for the next video so we can actually get some wave-based attacks going. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye! Hello, my fellow gnomes, and welcome back to episode 2 of our tower defense series. Now, we're going to need to add in some more zombies to our game, because at the moment, it's a bit rubbish just having the one zombie. Now, obviously, we could create a few copies like this, we could duplicate them all, and we could then run the game. And oh yeah, great, now we've got 4 zombies. But that's not really ideal, because then we're going to have all these different scripts that we're going to need to take care of in each one. Really, we need to do a bit of reorganization to our project and our code in specifically in order to get what we want. So the first thing we're going to do, well, I'm going to delete those extra ones, is I'm going to add in a script into server script service, and I think we'll just name this one main. This is going to be our main game script. And we're also going to add a module script. Okay, so inside of this, we're going to add in something called a module script. And we're going to name this one attacker, or maybe we'll just call this mob for shorthand, right? And if you If you're not too familiar with module scripts, then I've got a whole video all about that, which I'd suggest you checking out. We're going to continue here. So we're going to name our module to mob, and then obviously we need to return a mob. And then we're going to create a function in the script to spawn in a mob. So rather than the zombie just kind of being stood there at the start of the game, we want to add him into the game from our script now. So we're going to add in our function mob dot, it's a module script. You type the name of the module followed by the name of your function, and the name is going to be spawn. Okay, mob dot spawn, and I think the parameter it will need to take is the type of mod. So let's put the name and then maybe the map that we want to spawn them onto. And so then inside of our main script, we can then call this function. So just so we can check it's all working, we'll print out name and map. That's all we'll do. here. And then back in our main script, we're going to want to access that module script. So local mob equals require and we put script dot mob. So then now inside our main script, we can say mob.spawn, and we would then want to spawn what is zombie onto the I don't know, the grassland map. Right, and then if we run that, we should see down in the output zombie grassland map, because that's what we've instructed it to do in our module script. Now at present, we haven't actually got any map at all. Well, we've got this path. So how about we sort of give it some grass so we can make it into our grassland. So it looks a little bit more interesting. And maybe we'll add some trees for decoration. So now we've got something that looks a little bit like a map. Let's make sure we anchor all of the trees. We can group them together, I suppose. And then we ultimately want to put this whole thing in. Inside a folder. So we'll just call this grassland, seeing as that's what we're going to call it. And we're going to move everything into the grassland map. The drooling zombie we don't actually want. So we're going to move him over into server storage because we don't want him to be in the map to start with. And then in server storage, we'll add in a folder. For where all our monsters are going to be. So we can put mobs, and then he can go in the mobs folder. And let's rename him from drooling zombie just to be zombie. So it's a bit easier to remember. And now inside our main script, we can say, we get a variable for the map. We could say local map equals workspace dot grassland, and then we can pass this in. And then for our zombie, we're going to then want to check and see if there is something called zombie inside of that mobs folder we just created. So in the mob module script, let's have a look. We'll say local mob exists equals, and we're going to need a variable for the server storage actually. Always a good idea to put variables for services at the top. So we can say server storage equals game get service server storage. And then we will know that the mob is in the mobs folder inside a server storage. And then we're going to look for whatever they requested. So find first child and the name that they've passed to that parameter. So if the mob exists, then we can start to move it into the workspace. Move into workspace. That's just a comment. But else, if it doesn't exist, then we'll just leave some kind of a warning, shall we? Warn. Requested mob does not exist. And then maybe we'll just follow that up with the name that they were trying to get. But if they do exist, then we're going to want to clone it into the workspace. So local new mob this time equals that existing mob. And then we're going to clone it. Open close bracket. Once we've cloned it, then we're going to want to give it a parent. And there's one more thing we need to do. We need to set it a position. So how about we add in a new part into the grassland map. And we can just make this our starting point. Doesn't really matter what color or material it is, but I'll do this anyway. What color or material it is, but I'll do this anyway. Right, we'll make it force field. Why not? Okay, something like this. See. You can kind of see that. Maybe if it's red, it'll be easier to see. There we go. Okay, so that's our starting point. It's anchored. Disable on. Disable can collide. And then if we've got a map as well, we'll know that the new mob dot its humanoid root part and set the C frame of that equal to the map dot start that part we just created and get the C frame of that. So remember, C frame stands for coordinated frame. It's essentially its position in the world, and it's going to keep the rotation as well. If I turn on the orientation indicator, you'll see this part, that F, is facing forwards. So anything we spawn in will have the same C frame as this, will in the same position and orientation as this part. So now in our mob script, we are seeing if they exist. If it does, then we're going to clone it. We're going to set it to the position and then finally add it into the workspace. So let's give that a try. Right, we're trying to spawn in a zombie onto the map. From our main script, let's just try running the game. Run the game, and there we go. A zombie has spawned straight into the spot. Now we will notice we've got an error down in the output. That's from the existing script inside of the zombie. So if you remember before, we created this script, get him to move, but we don't really want to have individual scripts for each zombie anymore. So let's cut the contents out of here. We can delete this script. And instead, we're going to do it inside of this mob module script now. So we're going to create a new function at the top here, function mob.move. This is going to want to take as parameters the mob that we want and the map as well. So now we can copy and paste that in. And so now we can copy and paste that in. And make a few changes. Obviously, the zombie is no longer equal to script.parent, but it is our mob parameter that we're being sent in. So let's change this just to humanoid. And we can make this equal to mob. And we're going to wait for child now. So it's a good idea to wait for the humanoid to be fully loaded in. Wait for it to be loaded, and the waypoints now, these aren't just workspace.waypoints, it's actually that grassland map. So whatever map we're being given, and then we will say dot waypoints. So now we use that humanoid variable down here. And then finally, we'll head back into our main script, and we are going to spawn in a couple more zombies as well. So how about we do this inside some kind of loop? We'll say while or let's spawn in 3 of them. So if I equals 1, 3, do. And we just have that. We'll wait 1 second for task.wait. And then we will spawn in 2 more. Let's run that. And we're going to see zombie spawn in, a second one and the third one, and they all spawn in at the same spot. But we need to tell them to move, don't we? So back in our mob mod script, and after we've spawned them in, we can then call this move function. So after we've done this, we're going to say mob.move, and the parameters are the mob, which in this case is this new mob that we after we've done this, we're going to say mob .move, and the parameters are the mob, which in this case is this new mob that we've just cloned into the workspace. And the second parameter is the map, which we've already been given from here. So we send that information as well. And now if we run the script, we're going to add the mob, and it's going going to move. But we'll notice that it hasn't spawned in our other mobs. Why not? We're still waiting here. We told it to do it 3 times. Why isn't that happening? Well, if we wait till this zombie gets to the end of the course, and there he goes, we'll see suddenly now a next zombie spawns in. Obviously, we don't want this to happen. We don't want the script to yield or be waiting for the entire zombie to get all the way around the course before the next one spawns in. We need some way to have these different bits of code run at the same time. We don't want our mob.move function to interrupt our spawning. So how we're going to fix this is we're going to use something called coroutines. Now, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail here, but essentially I'm just going to put coroutine dot wrap and then I'm going to get these 2 brackets, and inside here I put the name of my function, which is mob.move. And then because I need to send the parameters as well, I do another opening and close bracket, and then I can copy and paste those parameters in. And if I then move that, I can then spawn in. And if I then move that, I can then spawn in my mob. It will start to move it, and then it will return, and we can then spawn in another one. So we're not going to have that delay while everything is being forced to wait for it to move all the way around the map. So now we can see we get those 3 zombies out they come, and they can all move together without the script sort of getting in each other's way. So a few little more quick changes we'll do here. The first one is we don't want them all piling up at the end of the course. Once they've got to the end, we just want to remove them from the world. And the second thing, we probably want to tidy up this script a little. So I'm going to stop the game, and to get them to destroy once they've finished the course is pretty easy. After we've looped through every single waypoint, all we need to do is say mob destroy. And there we go. That's all we need to do, because this line of code cannot run until it's gone all the way through the loop, aka it's gone over every single waypoint. Now, the next thing I want to do is try and improve this little bit of code here, because this is all very well, but if I want to have a series of waves, then I'm going to have a lot of sort of things like this, and it's going to be wrapped inside another big loop, and it's going to start to look a little bit messy if I've got all these different loops going on. So instead, in our mob.spawn function, we could actually request a quantity to spawn in. So after the name parameter, we'll have a new one called quantity. In the middle there, make sure we've got a comma between each parameter. And if we know that the mob exists, then we can loop over the quantity. So for I equals 1, whatever the number of quantity is. So if quantity is equal to 1, it's just going to go through this loop the one time. And we're going to want to do all of this. Now, whatever the number of quantity is. So if quantity is equal to 1, it's just going to go through this loop the one time. And we're going to want to do all of this. Now, we don't want them to all spawn in simultaneously, so let's try a half a second wait. Between each unit being spawned. And now inside our main script, instead of typing spawn lots of times, you can just type spawn zombie 3. Onto the map. And so now when we run this, we should see one zombie. Second zombie, third zombie. They'll make their way around. And there we go. And they all get destroyed when they reach the end there. Super. So that's one wave of attack. And if you want to add more waves, all we need to do is write a little bit of basic logic here. We'll type in another loop. So we'll say I or wave equals 1. And then however many waves we want. Let's just do 5 waves to start off with. Do and we could create some logic here. We could just say 3 times the wave. Here's how many you want to spawn in. So on the first wave, that would be equal to 1, and we just spawn in 3, and then 6, and then 9, and so on. Or we could have a bit more fun here if we wanted. So I could say if the wave is less than 5, then we'll do 3 times whatever wave we are. But else if the wave is 5, so the last wave then in that case, we're not just going to multiply it. We could just straight up spawn 100 zombies, all like that. So they're going to have a lot to deal with there. And at the top, we can print out wave starting and the name. name of the wave. Wave. And then at the end, we can print out wave ended. And maybe we'll just have a short wait as well. So task.wait 1 second. And let's see if that's all working now. Click run again. Wave starting 1, we see at the top, and it's going to immediately start to spawn in the entire next wave of zombies. We've got loads of zombies being parameter. And if we know that the mob exists, then we can loop over the quantity. So for I equals 1, whatever the number of quantity is. So if quantity is equal to 1, it's just going to go through this loop the 1 time. And we're going to want to do all of this. Now, we don't want them to all spawn in simultaneously, so let's try a half a second wait. Between each unit being spawned. And now inside our main script,